You set me on fire, striking a match on my lips, hot like June.
Oh my God. Okay, wow. The microphone is actually on. I'm sitting here. The little red light of the camera's on. Everything's going. Guys, welcome to Mad Woman, the podcast. I'm your host, Domenica Calarco. I can't wait to take you on this journey with me. Let's get started. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mad Woman, the podcast. I can't believe that this is our third episode because Monday Mindfulness would have went out before you hear this. I hope you loved Monday Mindfulness just as much as I did recording it. I feel like that episode helped me so much, so I really hope that you got as much out of it as well. Today, I am talking all things being admitted to a mental health ward. You guys know, if you follow me on socials and you've been following my story, I have been very open and honest with my story about being admitted into a mental health ward. But today I'm going into the nitty-gritty details. I want to be open and honest with you guys about how much it cost me, what was the process, what was it like inside the mental health ward, and other little tidbits that I learned along the way, and sharing a few stories of the people that I met in the ward. And I think you guys are going to be really surprised. So before we get into the main episode, I want to fill you guys in on what my week has been like and all of that good stuff, because it's been a bit of a wild ride. I'm in the middle of moving at the moment. By the time this episode goes live, I would have moved into my new place. But amongst that, I had a viral infection and was bedridden for a week, which doesn't really work when you have to pack your life up and move. So that threw a bit of a spanner in the works. Amongst getting prepared for the podcast to launch, as well as working on two other things that I cannot wait for you guys to hear all about. I think it's going to really tie in with the podcast as well. And I know that you're going to love it just as much as I've loved creating it. So put your feelers out there, have a little think of what it could potentially be, but excited for that to finally come out. The one thing I really learnt this time around with being super sick and being bedridden, like this was worse than COVID, guys. It was really hard for me to just lay there and let my body heal. I felt this immense guilt. It was like, I should be doing something. I can't be laying here. Domenica, you're being lazy. And I had to snap myself out of it and be like, Domenica, you are severely unwell. Your body is healing. You need to give it time to rest and recover. And I think society kind of glorifies this work hustle culture. And it's like, if you take a little moment to relax, whether that be for your mental health or for your actual physical health, it's kind of looked down upon. And I found myself really falling into that spiral last week. And I was like, hang on, no, not happening. We are not doing that. I had fallen into that pattern, over the last few years, especially, coming off being on TV and then working on so many different projects and just not having any time for myself. I would go to the gym and I'd, have my morning coffee, and they were all forms of meditation for me. But I think normalizing, taking time for you, whether it's going and getting a massage, having a little nap during the day if you can, there is nothing wrong with that. So that was something that I really noticed this week, and I snapped myself out of it and I got myself back to full health. I'm now sitting here recording the podcast. And thank goodness I'm over those antivirals, because they were a wild ride. I was in fever dreams. It was not cute, but I'm here. I live to tell the tale, and let's get into the main episode. Okay, guys, this was a really hard episode to try and structure. And I thought, why not just start from the beginning? I think if you guys have come over from being listeners of Sit With Us, follow me on social, you have seen everything that's gone on this year. And it hasn't been a typical year. The highs have been high and the lows have been absolutely fucking low. And so when I was trying to structure this episode, I just thought to myself, okay, where am I going to start? Start from right from the beginning. When was the moment I knew I had to admit myself into a mental health ward? Even before that, even trying to find where I was going to go was the issue. I went to a health retreat, which I thought would kind of reset and recalibrate myself. And it kind of did the opposite. I was still on my phone. I was still kind of around people, regular punters who were at this health retreat who kind of wanted to talk to me about the drama online, which was kind of wild. We were at this health retreat and you weren't even really meant to talk. Anyway, that's a story for another time. But when I got home from that retreat, I was in a really dark place, and I actually drove up to the Gold Coast where this retreat was. And it was on the drive home, and just a trigger warning because I'm going to talk about suicide and suicidal ideations. But it was during that drive where I would like have moments of bursting into tears, feeling really, really numb. And I called my mum on the drive, and I'd pulled over at this point because I just felt like I needed to just have a cry and call my mum and just kind of get out the feelings that I was feeling. And at that moment, I had this urge to drive my car into a pole because I just wanted to end it because I was in that dark of a place. And I feel really guilty even admitting that or even having said it to my mum, because not only did it put her in a really shit place because I was, on the Pacific Highway up near Queensland and there was no way that she could come and get me immediately. I was alone. I was on the side of the road. But I feel guilty to myself because even in that moment that I was severely depressed, anxious, and all of these things, I'd come so far in my life. And even to admit to myself that I was suicidal, I felt like I would let myself down. And obviously this didn't help my feelings of depression and spiraling anxiety. But it was in that moment, talking to my mum, I just knew. It was like this little voice inside me that just said, no, Domenica, you're not letting these demons win. You're not letting this feeling win. You are going to get home right now and you are going to find somewhere that you can admit yourself and get the help that you desperately need. And I got home safe, and I just Googled mental hospitals in Sydney. And I found Windsor Road Private Clinic, which is in Baulkham Hills here in Sydney. It is run by the Health Scope Group, and I think that is a national hospital kind of thing in Australia. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that. I had also researched the Sydney Clinic, which is actually in Bronte here in Sydney. I had called them. They had about a 2-month wait, and I didn't have 2 months to wait. I was lucky to have a few days. So for me, I was so lucky, and I thank my lucky stars every single day that when I called up the ward at 499 Windsor Road Private Clinic, I get emotional even saying that name because it just brings up so many emotions. But the lovely team that I spoke to there could get me in within 2 days, and it was just the best news that I'd heard in a really long time, knowing that I was actually going to get the help that I really fucking needed, and I was going to get it immediately. I was going to be in a place that I would be safe. I would have people around me that were going to give me the help that I needed. Not only that, but I was going to learn the tools to help myself in future. And sitting here today, months down the track, I can say that I do have those tools and I'm using them actively day in, day out to help myself. And it was worth every cent. Prior to getting the admission, I had to get a referral from my GP. It was really simple. I called my GP. I did a telehealth. I just said to her, I'm feeling suicidal. She said, you can immediately go to the emergency ward of your nearest hospital. But she was really honest with me. She said to me, they'll keep you there for a few hours, but they can't help you. And unfortunately, that is the medical system that we have here in Australia. I know in New South Wales, the way that it goes, that if you admit to the emergency ward and you say that you have suicidal ideations, they will admit you. You'll see a doctor, but unfortunately, there's not much more they can do. They have a very limited number of beds in hospitals here in New South Wales that are for, mental health patients. And it's really unfortunate because I know how lucky and privileged I am that I had private health insurance, but also I had money in the bank that I could pay for my admission. And I'm going to go into this because, like I said, I want to be really raw, vulnerable, and honest with you guys about what it cost me and how I got in. The how I got in was I got a referral from my GP. I called up the clinic. They had a space for me within 2 days. They talked me through the admission process, how much it was going to cost me. And in terms of private health, I only had got private health, only a few months earlier. And unfortunately, my private health actually didn't cover psychiatry or hospital stays. So the stay in the mental health ward actually cost me $18,000 out of pocket. The reason that I'm sharing this and I'm being really vulnerable and honest, because this is the truth. This is what it costs. And was it worth it? 100% it was worth every damn cent. Was it very, very expensive? Yes. $18,000 is a lot of money, and I completely understand that not everyone has that amount of money sitting in their bank. I'm very lucky that I had savings. Did I use all of my savings? Round about that, yes. But at that moment, I had no other option. If I went to, just my local hospital and went to the emergency ward, they wouldn't have done anything for me. And I needed immediate help. I needed something that was going to actually shake me out of what was going on with me. So my parents dropped me off at the clinic. I think it was like a Tuesday that I went in. I was really nervous. Obviously, I was severely depressed at this point. So I was kind of just very numb and not feeling a lot. But I was really sad to be leaving my parents at that point because I just had no idea what I was going to walk into. Hospitals are kind of scary places at the best of times. I don't even like going to the doctor. So for me, the fact that I was going to be living in a fucking hospital for 21 days was kind of scary. Also, just to go back, at that point when I admitted myself, I actually didn't know that I was going to be spending 21 days. I thought I would do 7 to 14 days. But when I did the first 7, actually it was about 10 days, it was at that point that myself and my doctor together, we decided that I was going to switch up my medication, which I can talk about my withdrawal. I'll get to that. It was at that point that I knew that I had to do this withdrawal in hospital, and that was the best decision that I made. And I think when it comes to money and money well spent, that's really where I'm so lucky that I had the money, but I'm so glad that I spent it. It was the best money I spent because it was for me, truly. So what is a day like on a mental health ward? Well, I tell you what, every day differs because, people are coming, people are going, and, there are all different kinds of people on the ward. They could be going through drug and alcohol withdrawals. They could be suffering with borderline personality disorder. They could have bipolar. They could have schizophrenia. The day that I got there, I never forget, the most beautiful girl came up to me and just introduced herself and just said, don't be scared. I'm here if you want to talk. And I'm not going to name names here, but I made so many beautiful friends at Windsor Road. Everyone was going through their own shit, but just that friendly face that I was met with on day one really set the tone for a very healing, difficult, but healing experience. So a day at 499 Windsor Road, what does that look like? I'll tell you guys. 7 a.m. you wake up, you do your daily observations. So they track your weight, your blood pressure, and other obs. Then at 9 o'clock, so after breakfast, you get breakfast provided for you. All of your meals are provided. I chose to make my own breakfast. I had crumpets with Vegemite and peanut butter, not together, on each crumpet, just to kind of make me feel kind of a bit like home. Hospital food isn't great, let's be honest. That was probably the least exciting part of the whole stay. But 9 o'clock comes and we have morning meeting. And in the morning meeting, everyone has to arrive. So throughout your stay, you have to adhere to doing a certain amount of group activities. I don't want to call it activities, but group sessions per day. Because most of the people that were in there, actually all of the people that I was in there with at the time, they were covered by their private health. A few people had done actually multiple stays at Windsor Road. So I was the only one that did a self-funded stay at that point. We all opened up about that. But to adhere to your private health insurance kind of standards, you have to do a certain amount of hours per day of group sessions. And if you don't show up to those group sessions, then they kind of have the right to kick you out and just say, well, hey, you're not doing the work. The whole point of actually being there is to do the work. And if you're there and not going to put in the work, then I just don't think that you're going to get out of it what you're there to do. So morning meeting was kind of like a mixed bag. The one thing I loved about morning meetings, though, was we would do this thing called daily goals and gratitudes. And it's something that I've taken into my life every day. And it's something that you guys can do right now, even listening to this podcast episode. Just thinking about what your daily goal is. I think having a goal every day is so crucial, especially if you are feeling anxious, a little bit stressed, in those moments of, uncertainty. Just making that daily goal of what you actually want to achieve that day, whether it be a small goal, even get up out of bed, have a shower and brush my teeth today. Amazing. Or today I need to go and have that really difficult conversation with my manager. Making that actual goal known to you at the start of the day is so powerful, as well as a gratitude. Even though it's at 9 o'clock in the morning, on the mental health ward, and it's kind of a bit bland in there. It was hard to find what you were grateful for. But I think as I progressed in the course and doing all of the material that we did throughout the 21 days, it became easier every day to kind of find what I was grateful for. Because you've got to remember, guys, when I got on the ward, I was so numb. I was in such a dark place. There was no light anywhere. I had just gone through a breakup, the breakdown of the podcast, and something that I'd worked my ass off for over 2 years. I was going through things with friendships that was kind of a bit weird, and I didn't really know what was going on there. But also I didn't have the mental capacity to be dealing with that. I needed to strip all of that back, and I needed to focus on me and my time being on the ward. So that daily goal and gratitude really stripped it back and brought it back to myself. And the one thing I really learned being in hospital is doing that self-care isn't selfish. Focusing on myself and what I need to do to nourish myself and my mind is not selfish. I think being brought up the way that I was in my loving big Italian crazy family, Italian women are raised to be people pleasers. And this isn't, a swipe at my mum or my nonna. I love you guys so much. But, being raised as a people pleaser is a bit damaging at the end of the day. And to my detriment, I would give everything of myself to those that I love, to, those that I work with and all of that. So it came back to bite me on the ass. And so I was just like, you know what? Fuck this. Self-care is not selfish, and I'm bringing it back all to me. So that was starting my day with those daily goals and gratitudes in that morning meeting and coming all together as a community was something that I will never forget, and it was such a big part of my healing. Another incredible part of my healing was art therapy. We would do art therapy class once a week on a Friday. It was my favorite time of the week. An art therapist would come in and we would every week do something different, whether that be, collage journaling, painting, drawing. It differed every week. And a huge part subsequently of my healing from that point on was doing art. And I really never thought I was shit at art in high school, all through school. I was like, I'm not good at this. I can't draw. I can't paint. And being in the ward and having a lot of spare time, because we'd have dinner at 5:00. And then after that, it's like, well, there's no going out. You're not seeing anyone, other than the people that are on the ward. And there's only so much FaceTime you can do. And there's only so much Law and Order SVU you can watch, guys. I'm telling you, I've done it all. So doing the art and just the brush strokes and getting that acrylic paint on a canvas was just really, really healing for me. So art therapy was a great part of that healing. But as well as all of that, I would see my psychiatrist 3 times a week. Not on weekends. It would just be through the week. We would catch up about how I'm feeling. And so he would really track my moods. And I guess, once I'd started the process of going through the change in medication, which I'm going to talk about next, that became really a big focus of catching up in those meetings. As well as that, I was doing somatic therapy, which I feel like I can do a whole episode on somatic therapy. It was just such a game changer for me. I'm a very much like a physical person. So somatic therapy is all about touch and just it's wild. I urge you to just look into it, give it a Google search. But I really want to do a whole episode on that. I did CBT. I did all kinds of therapy in there to really get the feel of what was actually going to work for me. There was a lot of DBT, CBT, and, incredible therapists that we could see between 9 and 5 every day. They were on hand to us, as well as the incredible nurses that were on the ward 24/7. I've always thought that nurses and our staff that work in hospitals are just the most incredible people. But the care that the nurses at Windsor Road Private Clinic put into the patients there was just second to none. I honestly attribute my healing to those incredible nurses, and I know they'll be listening. So thank you so much. I love you all so much, and I miss you guys. I know that's so weird to say, but I do miss you guys. Let's talk about my withdrawal process. This was really, really difficult for me because I had been on sertraline 150 milligrams for 15 years of my life. There's no clinical term for a nervous breakdown, but what I had was a nervous breakdown. That's what my psychiatrist said to me. And I just knew that my medication, the sertraline, wasn't working for me anymore. And when I was admitted, he said, let's just keep you on it. Let's go up a little bit on the dosage and just see if this can kind of even you out and can start kicking in again. It was about 7 to 10 days in, and I just was like, you know what? This is not working. I know in my core this has stopped working. I'm here. I'm in the ward. If I'm going to go through withdrawals that I know are going to kick my fucking ass, I want to be doing it in hospital. And it was actually the other patients on the ward that gave me that strength to confront my doctor and, be my own health advocate, because I was really shy. I'm like, I'm not going to go and tell this psychiatrist who's, done years of medical, tell him how to treat me. And it was like, well, hang on. I know my own body. I know how I'm feeling. I know that this isn't working for me and I need to be an advocate for myself. So I went in there and he actually apologized to me. He said that he felt sorry that he didn't listen to me at the start. And I think because he could see that I really actually wasn't progressing and, those feelings, those dark feelings weren't actually getting any better. So we started on the tapering of the sertraline. And can I tell you, this was only the beginning of a wild fucking ride. The wildest 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks of my life. In the meantime, still doing all of the sessions, going to therapy sessions, doing the art therapy, doing all of the things while I'm withdrawing off antidepressant SSRI that I'd been on for 15 years. So I started tapering off, and he put me on 30 milligrams of mirtazapine, which is a completely different antidepressant. It works differently to what an SSRI does. I would love to get a psychiatrist on one day, guys, to talk through the different types of antidepressants. I think that would be a really great, insightful episode. So stay tuned for that. But this is just also what worked for me, and this is what my medical doctor prescribed to me. So I started on the mirtazapine and the withdrawals began. Now, guys, when I tell you I was sick, I was so unwell. The night sweats, the nausea, the shaking, the full body tingling, the just irritability, insomnia, everything under the sun that you could feel. I could feel it from the tip of my head down right to my toes. It was the most horrendous experience I've ever gone through. But in saying that, I'm so freaking glad I did it whilst being in hospital. There is no way I could have done what I went through without being on a ward with nurses there 24/7. The incredible medical staff helping me through, I had on hand, as prescribed by my doctor, medications to help with the feelings of the nausea, the insomnia, like all of the things. It's absolutely wild what a prescription medication can put your body through. I never want to go through that again. Look, one day I potentially will have to, because I am on a new medication now. I am on the 30 milligrams of mirtazapine, which I can happily say has really stabilized my moods. I don't think it's really helped me that much with my anxiety. I'm being completely honest. I'm still waiting with my psychiatrist to do my ADHD diagnosis, which, yes, I've begun that journey. That is a completely other journey that I'm going to be taking you guys on. I know that there is a lot of people in the media. Everyone's openly talking about their ADHD diagnosis. And I think, a lot of people say that it feels like everyone's got ADHD now. And I think a lot more people are just being more open and comfortable with talking about it, which is an incredible thing. So I just saw that Steph Claire Smith came out and, talked about her ADHD diagnosis and how that's affected her work life, her personal life, and all of these things. And I saw a few comments about, people writing saying that, oh, just another one with ADHD. And it's like, so many people have been living amongst us with ADHD and have just not ever spoken about it. I think people forget that the vulnerability that people who have the strength to come forward and talk about it, they forget that these are real people. And I really just, sometimes I just think to myself, I don't know what I'm doing on social media, and I don't know where these people came from, but they crawled out of the pits of fucking hell sometimes with some of these comments that I'm seeing. I don't know where these people have come from. Where was I? I went on a tangent there. Yes, so I am gathering all of the resources that I need to do my ADHD diagnosis. He needs all of my school reports. He wants my mum and dad to come in to talk about my life, because obviously he's only known me now for like 6-ish months. So it's a really long process. It's not just going to your GP and handing over a Dexy. This is like a full-on lengthy and costly process. Anything psychiatry, guys, is expensive, unfortunately. And I don't know how that makes sense to our government when there are so many of us living, to be human, you're going to have psychological issues at some stage in your life, whether that be anxiety, whether that be stress, whatever it could be. You're human. You're going to go through those. And I know we have such great resources here in Australia, like Lifeline, Beyond Blue, all of these incredible resources. But to get the help for things that are actively affecting our everyday life, I don't understand how it can be so hard for people to get the help that they really need. To even get the diagnosis, it's bloody expensive. And then to get the medication, it's expensive. It's wild to me. And I know that I am privileged that I have private health, and I know that I'm privileged that I had that money to help me to get into the private clinic, because I know that so many people out there are are going through on some, different levels of what I went through, and they don't have that resource available because they can't afford it, or they're far away and they don't have a private clinic near them. And I just want you to know that there is other help available. You can go to your emergency room and get that help. They will not turn you away. You just need to advocate for your own health, be completely open, vulnerable, and honest, and you will be able to get the help that you need. It may not look like what my journey was and what my story is, but everyone is different. I just want you guys to know that. Where am I at now? 21 days in a mental health ward. Going through everything that I did, everything that I saw on the ward, making friendships with some people, seeing some pretty crazy shit. Maybe I'll leave those stories for another day. But a few months out now, I am finally healing. I don't think I've healed. I think, the journey isn't linear. It's always going to be changing, and I go through ups and downs. This morning, before even coming in here and recording this today, I was feeling really anxious. I was like having all the classic symptoms, tummy ache, sweating, feeling like a failure, all of these things. And I actually looked at myself in the mirror and I said, Domenica, you are fine. You are okay. You are going to get through this. And I know it sounds really silly to do the thing where you look in the mirror and talk to yourself, but no one can get through to you like you can. So that simple practice of actually just looking at yourself in the mirror, looking yourself in the eyes, and getting that message across to you, the person going through it, is the quickest and the easiest step, the first step to take in getting through that anxiety. Because I'm still going through it. I think a large part of my anxiety has to do with being a little bit OCD and my undiagnosed ADHD, unfortunately. The process to getting that diagnosis it's gonna be a journey. My psychiatrist is known to be a bit of a stickler for diagnosing ADHD. He is really, really particular, which is great. I mean, I love that. But the process is really long and it's going to be a journey. And of course, I'm going to keep you guys up to date with that.
Dear Dom, I have a question for you.
Dear Dom.
Welcome to Dear Dom, where your burning questions meet my no-holds-barred advice. Whether you're navigating love, work, or that weird neighbor situation, I'm here to dish out wisdom with a side of sass. So guys, this is where our Dear Dom segment will live. As this is our kind of first week of Mad Woman and we're getting the feel of everything, I haven't been able to get your questions this week. So I want to do a little bit of a call out to you guys, our beautiful listeners, to jump on the Instagram, shoot me an email with your Dear Dom questions for next week. I cannot wait. This segment excites me so much because it means that you guys get to be involved in our community, which is what Mad Woman is all about. So make sure you send through your questions on our Instagram. All of the links will be in the show notes, or shoot me an email. Once again, my email will be in the show notes. So cannot wait for you guys to be involved in this segment. I feel like I could sit here and talk for hours about my journey doing 21 days on the ward, but I think I'm going to leave this episode open because I want to hear from you guys. I want your questions. I want you guys to write in on the podcast Instagram page, DM me. I want all of your questions, all of your feedback. And then I can come back here, sit here and talk right to you guys and give you all of the help that I can give, as well as offering, some really incredible leaders in their field, whether that be psychiatrists, trauma therapists. That's just a taste of what's to come here on Mad Woman, the podcast. And I can't wait for you guys to be on this journey with me. And thank you for giving me this space to be open, vulnerable, and honest with you guys about my mental health journey. It's ongoing, and there will be days where I'm feeling really shitty and that imposter syndrome comes back in, but I'm taking it one day at a time. And I thank you guys for sticking by me and for all of the beautiful DMs that I continue to get, and hearing all of your stories just takes me back to being on the ward, because it was all about community, and that's what I want Mad Woman to be. So Thank you so much for listening. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you follow, whether it be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Make sure you come and follow on Instagram. And I can't wait to chat to you in the next episode. Bye, guys.